Hello everyone and welcome to this GL Assessment Year 5 homework review video for Block 3 Week 4. In this non-verbal reasoning homework we'll be assessing primarily fold and punch, and that's the main focus of today's lesson, although we will also finish off by looking at some matrices style questions. Let's look at the homework sheet, and you can see here today we are doing Week 4, and we're obviously only going through the you must section, but that does constitute a fair bit of fold and punch, which I think is the main thrust of the lesson, and then a little bit of the matrices at the end. So, if you could please, in your spatial book, the one I've got here on the right hand side, turn to page 11. You see we are only selecting not whole parts of the test, but we are just doing the relevant parts here, so just page 11, even though I realise that is part of a large test. I'm going to run through. Now, I'm going to go through these fairly slowly, and as well as that, actually show you the method that I would expect people to do, because fold and punch are things that people can find quite challenging if they try and do them purely in their head. But a bit how in a maths questions, if you show your working, if you mark on the paper sort of your folds, it becomes a lot easier. And actually, one thing I would strongly recommend as part of this is to go and check the answers, because as part of the answers, they actually give a really nice example of what I mean by this working, where you're sort of tracing the dots. Let's jump into it and let's sort of see how we get on, and hopefully it makes sense. So within fold and punch, you'll always be given a square or a rectangular shape, and you'll be given some dotted lines and a straight line to indicate where a fold has taken place. So what you can see here is actually before this, the shape did look like a square, and they obviously folded it over. And that's what they mean, or they indicate by this dotted line and this straight line. And then something's happened, that the hole here has been punched inside of it. So what I would expect to see is on this shape going backwards, us to copy over what we expect to happen from a hole, and then what it would look like after it was unfolded. So if we were to unfold it from here to here, be folding in this direction, we're going to get what is essentially a reflection along this line here. So I'll do it in green just for this one, just so you can see. So this green line here is the line that's going to be reflected, and so we should be able to see hopefully that this line here is going to be reflected across. And so in terms of the actual working out, I'd want to see you putting a dot here and the reflected dot here. And this is what I mean by the working out. So I can see very clearly now this is what my final shape should look like, and that matches very nicely with A. Now obviously number 9 is a fairly simple one, but you'll see they can get a little bit more involved, and that's where it becomes really important to keep track of your working. So let's just look at number 10. So it's been folded in half, in this corner, so I actually sort of pre-plan it, so it's obviously been folded in this direction, then it's been folded in this direction here, and then it's been hole punched. So if we go in reverse, first off this hole will appear here. When you unfold it, you'll get a copy of the hole next to it here, and then that means on this one you'd have 2 holes here. So when you then unfold these, they're going to be reflected along this line, and it's going to look something like this. And of course, now that I've got this sketch, it becomes really easy to see it again. This is answer option A. And this is the method. So break down the changes that have occurred step by step, and then in reverse, bit by bit, apply them to the picture from before. So again, you can see this has got 2 folds. We folded along here initially in half, and then it's been folded again to create like a quarter. And so if we were to take this dot and put it in the same place, we'd get a dot here. When this one unfolds, it's going to be reflected along this line here. It means you're now going to have 2 dots on this side here in the top right. When these then get unfolded, they're going to be copied or mirrored down into this corner here. And now the only thing to watch out for obviously is if you have 2 pictures like C and D, just think to yourself, would these be closer or further apart? And in this case they would be, hopefully, as you can see from my drawing, closer together, so D is the better option. Right, let's just keep going, I think. So, number 12, this is the 4 change one, really exciting. So we've got first off the hole is placed, so let's put that here. The change from here to here is that this corner gets unfolded to the top right, but also this middle axis one, if you can see, look, this, I can sort of draw, I always need a thinner line, 1 second. Let's do a dotty line. So the fold has taken place along there, so when you unfold that shape, this dot is going to be copied over, so I'm going to have a dot here and here. And then these corner ones are going to unfold, and actually they're going to do it bit by bit. So this corner one is the first one to get unfolded. So we're going to have a dot here, a dot here, and a dot here. And the last one would be to unfold it into that corner. So it's actually going to be a straight line. So B is our answer. Quite exciting. Right, let's see. So again, 13, we've got a dot here. We can see the change is that this unfolds in that direction, so we're going to have a dot here and a dot here. We can then see that this one obviously folds open like this, and so we're going to end up having two dots like this. And what's interesting, that obviously reveals behind it that this top was folded over a double fold here. So actually when this part unfolds to form here, well, let's copy it over. Here are my four dots. When that flap unfolds, you're going to get a little extra one in that corner there, which means the answer, I think, that one gets folded, that gets hole punched there. Yeah, so I think that must mean A, 13 is the answer, definitely, because that one gets folded first, so it definitely does appear there. So I think the mistake there, the trick is, it makes you think maybe it's B, but just in terms of the ordering, this corner gets folded in, and because it's being folded in and then punched, the hole must appear in both cases. So I'm confident of that one. Looks good to me. Right then guys, so now we're on to the next page. So this is now going to be on page 27, and we're going to continue. And what's nice about these is they start off a little easier and they gradually get harder. So if you are struggling, you may even want to do the sort of the easier questions, so question 1 and 2, or question 1, 2 and 3 of all the activities, just so you can see that's page 27, page 35 and page 40, and then build up that way. But equally, if you're getting it, if you're into the string of things, if you can see how this sort of sketching or showing you're working is helping, by all means just carry on. Right, at this point I'm going to suggest you pause now and go and have a go if you haven't already, because the rest of the video is going to be just running through these answers. So for this one, nice and easy, let's copy it over and copy it over when it unfolds like this. So that's going to be B. For this one here, we're going to copy that over. We can see how that one's going to unfold to form that shape there. So I've got these two dots, and then these two dots are going to unfold to form two dots like this. Whether you draw the arrows in or not is up to you. I'm sort of adding these arrows in really for you guys on the end to see with clarity. I'm not sure in the real exam whether I would draw the arrows, but if you find drawing the arrows helpful to show you the direction they're moving, great, by all means do it. So I think the answer there is undeniably A for number 10. Again, let's copy that dot over. Let's think, how has this one changed from here? Just a dot. How has this one changed? However, we've got this corner unfolding, so that dot's going to get copied over here. So now we've got these two. And then when you're reflected along a diagonal, just be aware it's not going to be copied up to the top. This one is going to be copied in sort of close to the line. But if you look, let's do a different colour. This back dot is further away, so we need our other back dot to be further away. So you actually end up with this kind of spread where it looks like this. Let's get that out of the way. So close, close, far, far. And that means, of course, the answer is going to be C. I've seen quite a lot of people accidentally go with A with this kind of reflection where you've got to realise it's being reflected, well, reflected diagonally. For 13, let's add that dot in there. That's going to be a dot there. That's going to get unfolded. Well, you can see actually that unfolds, so I should really do this one first. So that's going to get unfolded out to here, along that unfold, and then that dot is going to get reflected onto there. So I'm going to end up having 3 in a line, which is exactly what it looks like in D. 13, there's your dot. From here to here, you can see this square is unfolding, so it's going like this. So we have a dot there, and if we fill that on, we can see it's going to be this fold ongoing like this. So we have it up there, and if I then fill these in, when those all unfold, we're going to have 2 that are close and 1 that's far. So let's see which one that looks like. That looks like C to me. And again, hopefully that's nice and clear. And you can see the step by step. And if you skip this step, quite often it's possible to make silly mistakes. That's what I would advise, just little by little, just filling it in, like you would with your working in maths to avoid a mistake for a hard question. So obviously this one's going to have a dot, and it's going to unfold that way, so we get 2 dots in the top corner. Ooh, this one's exciting, so you're going to have that from folded there to there, and you have one little sort of strip unfolding to make that double. So you have 2 lines, and then those 2 lines can be copied again. So you're going to basically have 4 lines in a row. That's going to look like A. So let's copy this one in here. So you can see the difference is this whole thing's unfolding. So I think we're going to have another one sort of in the middle. So it's going to look like this. So if we copy that over, you have 2 dots there and there. And then when those get folded down, they're going to end up with 4 squares in the bottom like that. I think that means that obviously A is the answer. One thing actually I think I did it better in this drawing. They're a bit more spread out in that one because they are sort of a bit more central. So it's kind of just move those slightly to the side. Oh, it's a bit too much. That's better. Well, actually, you know what? A is a pretty good example. Okay, number 4. So there's the hole. And what's changed between here and here? You can see from just purely the hole's been unfolded, so I think that we need to have then this one here is unfolding that way, so I think we're going to get 2 dots in that corner as that flap folds back down. And then from these 2 unfold, we're going to get them all in a row. So for question 4, does that look right to me? So it's between B. Let me just have one more look. The thing that confuses me slightly is why is that line there bold? So actually I wonder if is it this piece that's been unfolded. Oh, I think that's sneaky, yeah. So sorry, I think what's happened is you've got your, how would I draw this? With your piece of paper, it's been folded in half like this. And I think it's this blue bit that's been folded over. Again, I think it's this blue leafy part here that's been folded to make that lip. And the reason I think that is because you can still see this red backing part here. That's what this bit is behind. Otherwise, it would be dotty because you wouldn't be able to see it there. So actually, I'm going to change my answer slightly. Let me do that one again. So the dot goes here, but what's going to happen is that piece will unfold, but it's not actually on. So if I draw on the master picture, it's going to end up being here and here, because when you do that dotty unfold, there isn't actually ever this bottom part here, this bit here, is never actually being punched, because it's going to get, as it unfolds in that direction, it's going to get carried up to the top. So I take back my answer. I think when you unfold that, you're going to get 3 in a row like this. Now, how would we draw that? So from here to here, you've got a hole punch. Then from here to here, you are going to appear to have these 2 holes. But when that gets unfolded, it's a bit of a failure of the drawing. Actually, you almost need one more square. Well, in that case, why not add it? So let's have the square that looks like before this. When you get this unfold, bearing in mind there is nothing behind it, when that unfolds, these 2 are going to get carried up into the top corner. There will be one more, which is from the initial hole punch, but you won't have that one there. So actually my answer is C. I think that's a bit of a tough one to see, explain as it sort of gets carried away, and it's all to do with the presence of that thick line down there. That's a good question. You know what? I like that one. I think it's good when they do a bit of a challenge. Right, number 5, let's see if it's any easier or harder. So from here to here, we're adding a hole punch. So we already know there's going to be 2 holes on those 2 layers that we can see. That's going to then unfold to form this line. So you're going to have here, and when that gets folded, it's actually going to come slightly diagonally in this direction. So the other hole's going to be sort of over here. Then from here to here, we're going to unfold in that direction. So this top line's going to get copied vertically. And then if we do 1, 2, 3, that bottom line's falling down. It's going to get copied down like this. So I think the answer is going to be D for that one. I'm a bit more confident with number 5 that that's correct straight away. Hopefully you can see those steps there. Right, number 5. Oh, back to a nice easy one. So there's the hole, and it is after you expand it over. On this one, there's the hole. When it copies over, it's going to get reflected down to here. And then it's saying this one here has been folded over as well, but obviously we couldn't see it. So when that one unfolds, it's going to appear above it. And again, the fact that you can see the dotty line means it is actually that part of the top part of the paper. So I think we're going to have 3 in a row up the top. So that means it's going to be A. Right, for this one, let's copy the dot across. It's going to unfold in that direction, so it's going to go diagonally down, so like this. Let's fill those 2 in. And now, it doesn't look to me as there's anything on that flap there. So when that flap gets copied, it's not going to copy anything over, and so I don't think actually we're going to receive anything in number 7, so it's just going to be, well, like C. And that sometimes puts people off when they do a fold with no dots in it, but that can happen. There's no, or holes, you're not really dots, they're obviously they're hole punches, but you know what I mean. Number 8, so let's put the dot in. When that unfolds, it's going to unfold in that direction, so we're going to get a dot up here, so we can fill those in, and I think actually it's going to appear not as part of that circle, so you're going to get a dot here and a dot here. So when that flap unfolds, it's not going to change anything, so you're still going to just get these 2 dots. And then when these dots unfold, you're going to get 4 dots like that. So I think the answer is going to be, yeah, that looks like B to me. So again, watch out, that was the one where they had a fold with no dots or no holes punched into it, so it was like a bit like a red herring. This one, okay, so we've got a hole here, and then that unfolds to form the triangle. It's going to get copied down just vertically like this, and then when those two get unfolded diagonally, they're going to appear in this direction. So I think that means for number 9 the answer is going to be B, because that's what matches with my picture. So that wasn't, oh sorry, for this one the answer is D. I think that's what matches most clearly. Right, and that, guys, sorry, oh, that was it. That was the end. So now we're going to move on to look at these complete the grid questions. They also are called matrices questions, essentially where you're completing the thing that is most sensible. We did these a bit in block 2, so it's just a good bit of revision because we know how popular a question type these is. So just as a reminder, you need to be looking both horizontally, vertically, and diagonally for patterns. And the kind of patterns are the shapes changing. Well, in fact, the kind of patterns are your classic Spansros words. So if you can't remember your Spansros words, please go look it up in your book, because it's shape, position, angle, number, size, rotation, overlap, symmetry, shading, and those are your hints, your things you'll be looking at. So in this one, we can see that as you go from, for example, left to right, it gets smaller, but everything else stays the same. So as we go from left to right, it needs to get smaller, but everything else needs to stay the same. So that's why the example is C. Nice and easy for an example. Let's jump into the real questions. So for number 1, I can see that as we go from left to right, the shading of the shapes has swapped. So I'm expecting to see the shading of the shapes has swapped, but also as I go from left to right, the direction of the triangle has changed. So I'm expecting to see this shield pointing to the left and being white. So I'm going to eliminate any that don't obey that rule. So that's pointing to the right. So we're now down to a 50-50. And so now all I've got to work out is what direction should my top arrow be facing. And it looks to me as though the top shape here did not change. So I want the one that's still pointing down. So I want E, not C. For number 2, we've got the same shape. And it doesn't look like that triangle's rotated. So I think I still want to have a diamond. I might just sketch that in. And so that eliminates first of anything that's not a diamond or has changed. So it gets rid of the one that's smaller. And then we were pointing to the bottom right, into the shape, and then we're pointing out of the shape. So if this one is pointing out the shape, I think we want an arrow pointing into the shape. And so I think that means answer B, just based on my sketch. It seems to be pointing to the same point at which it was in, so you need to be pointing to the same part. So yeah, I think that seems like a good one to me. This one's a triple grid, and again, that's totally allowed. They will do that occasionally. And so for this question, just make sure obviously that you apply the changes in multiple directions. So it looks to me already as we're going from left to right, it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, so 2, 3, 4, so I think we're expecting 4 dots. So any that don't have 4 dots we can eliminate. And then we need to think about the angle. Is it going top left, top right, bottom right? Is it rotating round? No, because look here, this one is bottom right, top left, so it's not rotating each time. Well, one thing I noticed is they never seem to have, sort of on the little pie segments, never seems to be taking the bottom left positions. That means there's only 3 positions. There's top left, top right, and bottom right. So we've got top left, top right, bottom right, top left, top right. So do we need to have one of each type? So this one's top right, that's bottom right. So what we're missing for this one is top left. So that's top right, so that one wouldn't count. That's bottom right, that wouldn't count. That's the only one that's top left. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good reasoning. So we need to have 4 dots, and in the pie segment, or the quarter of the circle needs to be in the top left, because it always in each of the columns it needs to adopt each of the positions, of the 3 positions they've chosen. I think that's it there. On to page 37, the next page. These continuing being 3 grids. So it looks to me they all have the same shading. These all have the same shading, so I think we need to have white, black, then lined. So white, black, lined, that means B is gone. White, black, lined, white, black, lined, but E is gone because it's not, we've got the black and the white the wrong way around, so that eliminates a couple of them. And then it goes square, circle, triangle, but then not square, circle, triangle because it's new shape, so it's not the pattern. So okay, let's keep looking. But it goes the inside one becomes the middle one, becomes the outside one. That is a pattern. Then the middle one becomes the outside, becomes the inside. So it looks like they're alternating. So that means, I think, and let's just check here. So the outside becomes the inside, becomes the middle. Yeah, I think we've got it. So the outside one will become the inside, so we want a square on the inside. Then the middle one is going to become the outside one, so we want a pentagon on the outside. I've not really left enough of a place to draw it, but that already lets us eliminate actually A and C, because these are with a pentagon. So obviously needs to have a pentagon on the outside, a square on the inside, and yeah, sorry, a circle in the middle, which I didn't quite leave enough room to do. Maybe I can do a different colour and see. Not the clearest drawing, but remember the advantage of the sketching is just they need to be clear enough. I wonder if I decrease the size of that line thing. So yeah, you can sort of see what we've got going there. But remember, guys, the sketches only have to be functional, not pretty, and so something I'm quite good at, functional but not pretty. And as long as you're able to keep track and want to see what the answer, that's totally fine to move on. And that's an okay sketch. Right, let's keep going then. For number 5, it looks to me as though that middle black sort of pair of diamonds are rotating, so vertical, horizontal, vertical. And that goes horizontal, vertical, horizontal. So I think we can have a similar pattern here, perhaps, where it's going horizontal, vertical, horizontal. So I think we want the grey ones to be horizontal, so that eliminates a couple of the options, which is pretty good. So we already know that the 2 grey diamonds. Then we've got something going with the lines. So we've got 2 arrows pointing to the top right, then to the top, then the right, and the bottom. And so that would be a rotation, if these 2 arrows are rotating, it's top, right, down. These are down, left, up. That's still a rotation of 90 degrees each time, so I think we can keep that pattern going. So here we've got the arrows pointing left, the arrows pointing up, arrows pointing right. So that lets us eliminate E. Right, and then once you're down to 2 like this, it's often a good idea just to compare them and say what's different. And it looks to me as though this one's got the black on top, this one's got the white on top. So we just need to ask ourselves what the correct thing is and why. And that one's going to be top, then left, then bottom. If you just look at the shape, the pattern rotating around each time. And so I think we need option A, not C, because C's got the black and the white the wrong way around. Hopefully that's fairly clear. So there's a bit of rotation going on that one, definitely. Number 6. Oh gosh, there's lots of arrows in this one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we've all got the same number of arrows. And it looks actually to me as though this whole pattern is just being rotated round. If you look, if you just focus on this arrow to start with, pointing left, then pointing up, then pointing right. Well, that is a rotation. And then as it's rotating, as you go from left to right, it's going white square, white square. So I think black, white, black, white, black. So we want a white square first and foremost, so we can get rid of the 2 that have the black squares. And then we just need to think about how this is rotating. So it's pointing down, then pointing left. So before that, it would have been pointing up. I think this outside one here, if you look, this is the one I'm sort of tracing the journey of, going backwards. So that already lets us eliminate A and E and B. It must be the answer. And so that's quite a useful trick. Just by focusing on one feature, you can sort of create the rest. And I'm sure now I could go on to sketch the rest of the arrows, because it's going to look like these 2 arrows are splitting in a V coming out of this line. So you've kind of got like a V coming out of the line. And then, as we said already, you need to have a black square. And that now is a pretty close rough sketch. Also, not a black square, it was a white square, wasn't it? I can't draw a white square. You have to trust me on that one. Yeah, I think that does match up quite nicely with B already. Okay, number 7. Well, it looks as though we've got a combination of these middle shapes forming the top shapes. If you look, you've got a triangle, a circle, and a trapezium. Triangle, circle, trapezium. We've got a pentagon and a square and a rectangle, a pentagon, a square, and a rectangle. So it does make me think we probably need to have a square, a hexagon, and a circle. So if we've got any that don't have squares, hexagons, and circles, we can eliminate them. So, for example, that oval. Oh no, that is oval now, because it's more of an oval, not a circle, so we do need an oval. So yeah, they've all got the ovals. It does look as though they're getting elongated though. So if you look, as we go from bottom to top, we have a very narrow, for both of these, we have a very narrow shape. Then it gets a bit wider, then it gets wider still. So I think we have an oval that needs to be quite wide. So A is quite wide, B's not got a wide oval, C's not got a wide oval, D does, but E, the orientation of the oval is wrong, so I don't like E already. So I think the answers for me are between A and D. And then let's just check. So the direction of the line shading remains consistent, and both lines are the same anyway, so that's not it. Oh, well, if we compare, this is a good opportunity to compare what's the difference between A and D. Well, it's whether it should have a triangle on top or this rectangle on top. And I don't see any evidence of there being a triangle in this shape, so I think I'm going to eliminate A, which means D must be my answer, because it does look like a combination of the same shapes every time if you could look at the column. Okay. Now, it's all too easy to assume with this one that just the pattern carries over. But I don't think that's the answer, because if you look, this one doesn't keep going. So there's obviously some other pattern to spot here. So if I look, we've got the circle in the top left, top right, bottom right. So I'm just ignoring the perhaps slightly distracting sort of arches and just focusing on the circles. So top left, top right, bottom, bottom left. Now that definitely looks to me like it's rotating 90 degrees clockwise. That's rotating 90 degrees clockwise. This one, therefore, should also be rotating 90 clockwise. So I think my circle should be in the top left. And I think working that alone helps discount B, which I think is the obvious sort of trap to fall for. Then when you think about what colour it is, it looks like it goes black, grey, white, black. So here we've got a white, we've got a black, so we're missing a grey. So actually that, I think, eliminates all the options and leaving us just with A. So it's amazing how with that one, just by focusing on one feature, perhaps not the main part of the feature, but one of the more obvious ones, gives the game away. The fact that it must, just following the progress of that circle around, tells us it must be A, and I'm pretty confident that one is correct there. Right, we're on then to the new section. So this is another section 2 later in the test. It's on page 48. So feel free to jump ahead with me. And again, it's going to start off on some slightly easier ones and get to the harder ones. We've already seen this example, so I won't do that again with you. But it looks to me as though that's some kind of reflection, but the circle is being turned to black. So I'm expecting a black circle in the top left, which actually already is going to nicely eliminate a few of the options. Because that one's the top right, and so is that one. So actually, we're down really just based on the circle alone to only one option, which is A, which is rather pleasant when that happens. Looking at number 2, top right, bottom left. So again, I think if we track this round, that seems to be currently rotating around 90 degrees as we go from left to right. So as we go in reverse, it's going to be rotating around anti-clockwise. Oh, but you know, top left, top right. Yeah, that one definitely. So if we now go in sort of this direction, it's going to be going anti-clockwise, anti-clockwise. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident whatever my missing shape is, it's going to be in this bottom corner here. So that means I can start eliminating a few of these, and in fact, I can eliminate all of them. So even without having to work out what the shape was, I was able to get to my answer, which is rather lovely when that happens. Now, in terms of what the shape is and why, it seems that you need to have either, well, one of, in each row, a triangle, a square, a pentagon. And since we had the triangle and the square, what was missing was the pentagon. So that's why I think he's got the pentagon in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay. And then as you descend, the number of lines is going up. So 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, 1 line, 2 line, 3 lines. So no lines, 1 line, 2 lines. That's the complete picture as to why. But we didn't need all that extra stuff. We were able to find the answer straight away. Number 3, we've got a 4-sided shape becoming a 6-sided shape. If we go from left to right, it goes 1, then 2. As we go vertically, or it goes 2, then 4. Well, I think if we go based on 4-sided shape becoming a 6-sided shape, this needs to become a 5-sided shape, which is a pentagon. So that's already going to eliminate a few of these options. And in terms of what's going on with the lines and the arrows, again, we just got 2 lines becoming 4 lines. So 1 line should become 3 lines. Well, actually, yeah, that must be the case because both of these have got 3 lines. So we're on to something, but that's not the final thing. I guess really it's all to do with the direction of this arrow, because really that's the only difference. And if we follow it, that seems to be rotating. Is it rotating? Well, but pointing down, pointing left. Pointing to the left. So maybe we compare these two. If that one's bottom left, that one's bottom right. So if that one's top left, that one should be bottom left as well. That doesn't quite match up either, so I don't think it's that for this one. How are we getting a reflection? That's not any kind of reflection there. That's not any kind of reflection there. Because it's not a rotation, because if I rotated this out like this, it would be a reflection. So which one of these would be a reflection if I rotated it? Well, that B would be a reflection, whereas E is not a reflection. That seems quite a tough one, but I suppose it is towards the bottom of the page. So I think the answer, of the two, I think B is closer to being my preferred answer, because that arrow is a reflection of this arrow, as these two are reflections of each other if you were to rotate them round to look similar. Whereas E is not an exact reflection. If I rotated it, it's an exact copy. So let me see if I can show you what I mean. So it's possible for me to rotate E to match exactly, whereas copying B, it's not possible for me to, no matter how I rotate it, to make it be an exact match. So that was a tough one. That one certainly give me pause for thought. So well done if you got number 3. I think that's a tough one, but I am going to go with B as my answer rather than E. Number 4. Okay, well, we've got 1 triangle, 2 triangles, 3 triangles. When we've got 3 triangles, 1 triangle, 2, so you always need to have 1, 2 or 3 triangles. So what's missing? We've got 1, 2, so we're missing 3 triangles, so we can eliminate anything that doesn't have 3 triangles. That's a good start off the bat. Then we've got sort of big shapes, little shapes, so these should be medium shapes, and it looks as though there's always a circle, a square, and a semicircle. So what we're missing is the semicircle, but it needs to be a medium semicircle, so that eliminates E, because that's a small semicircle. And now between these two, I just have to think about, should that arrow be in the bottom left or the bottom right, because that's the only difference between A and B. And it looks though, so bottom right, that's bottom left, that's bottom left. So whenever there's if you look, whenever there is the 3 triangles, it's always in the bottom left. So I'm going to assume mine should be no different and have it on the bottom left. So I think A is my answer rather than B. Number 5. Well, it looks as though this shape is what you would see when you kind of have these two shapes separated out. So you can see that there's a triangle inside of there and a circle inside of there. So I think we're almost looking for 2 triangles where we can see the lines as they're drawn together, almost like I can sketch it on, but almost like you can see that triangle and this other triangle across it. Again, not my prettiest sketch, but that eliminates certainly B and D, where you can't see any of the lines. And in terms of the orientation, it does look as though it's like a reflection of this one here. So that's pointing top left, that one's pointing top right. So if I kind of look for some of the key features, that triangle there should be pointing to left. So I think we're expecting our middle triangle to be pointing to the right somewhere. And then this one's pointing the other direction. So I think we want it to look a bit like something a bit like that one. How does that look? Not quite. That one's got the point left, that one's got the square. That one's pointing vertically up, then pointing left. That circle doesn't have any orientation. So we're adding that to get that shape. Then that rotates round. We're adding that to that, so you can see it overlap. That would give you a shape there. Well, these all look very similar. The difference, I suppose, I think we can eliminate A actually. Sorry, just looking, because A's got 2 overlapping shapes, whereas we're not supposed to see one on top of the other. So it really is between C and E, and it's whether it should be pointing vertically, that triangle, or south, or down. Sorry, not south, because that's the difference. If you look at that middle triangle, is pointing up or down. Now, those 2 ovals are in the same direction, both pointing vertically. These 2 trapeziums are both on top. So would it be fair to say that we should still be having this triangle here pointing upwards, which is why it's C, not E? I think so. I think that's my best guess. That because we want to have this triangle still pointing upwards, like these are pointing up and these are pointing up, that's why it's C over E. Tough one, that. Tough one. Good question. Well done if you got it right. Number 6. We've got a plus and a times. So times, plus, times, plus, times, plus. So it seems to be alternating, so I think we need to have a plus shape. So we can eliminate E. And then it looks as though we've got sort of a tier shape that's moving around. So I think we need to have it sort of there, then the middle, so it's going to be over in this corner here. The tier shape. So let's get cross these out. Oh, well, that was nice. And that one, number 6 made up for number 5 being so mean, because that to me is nice and easy. If you look, the shape sort of seems to be rotating round with it, and so we need to have our tier in the top left corner, and D was the only one that had it. And yeah, it does look at it. We've got a case of a white, a grey, and a black shape each time. So that's very good. Number 7. Well, I think that pattern, this one does complete, so we're expecting sort of our little triangles here and here, which means we can eliminate D and E. And then looking at this row, we've got one dotty, one lined, one cross-hashed, one dotty, one cross-hashed. So I think we want vertical lines in here. So let's fill those in our circle. So that's going to eliminate B because they're horizontal, and C because it's white. So I think number 7 must have the answer A. Just following that same pattern. Number 8. Well, it looks like we've always got a triangle, a rectangle, a circle. Triangle, rectangle, circle. Triangle, rectangle, so what's missing is the circle, so we can fill that one in. And one of them is always grey, so white, white, grey, white, white, grey, so it actually means we know this one must be a grey shape, so we can cross out the white ones. And then it goes black, white, black, 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 white, so I think we're missing a white shape on the end, or sorry, a white arrowhead, because black, black, white, black, black, white, so we can see the 2 black arrowheads here, so it means we need to have a white one, so we can cross out D. So now that just leaves us with B and E. And if we look at the difference between B and E, it's where those lines are. So let's think about the lines there. So we've got sort of middle lines, top lines, bottom lines. So it's kind of like one of each type. So we've got far to the right, far to the left, in the middle. Okay, so in this one we've got top, middle, so I think what we're missing is bottom lines. And that would look more like B than I think it would E. So I think B is my answer, not E. And hopefully that's clear as to how I did that and how I went through and eliminated. We've got one more page. This is Assessment Test 5, Section 1 on page 70. So if you always want to turn there, again guys, if we're going too fast, please pause the video. But otherwise, let's jump into it and run through the questions. So it looks to me as though the orientation is the same vertically, so we want something that's going sort of from left to right, so that eliminates B and A. And then it looks though these two are sort of the same but slightly stubbier, and I think I want then a sort of stubbier circle, which looks more like C, not the elongated versions of D and E, because these are long, become stubby, so this long should become a bit smaller, a bit stubbier. Number 2. It looks as though the actual pattern has been rotated around anti-clockwise, so I think we're going to want the rings sort of looking more like this, with it sort of pointing to the top left. So that eliminates B and E. And in terms of the pattern, it was, well, we know we need one of each type. The left one has become the middle one. So that means the white one should become the middle one, so we should have a white one in the middle, so that's going to eliminate D. Then here the right one has stayed the right one, so that right one is black, the right one should stay black, which eliminates A. So I think C therefore must be the answer for that one, just sort of tracking where the colours have moved to and why. Number 3. Well, it looks as though the line shading has changed from being horizontal to vertical. So it's gone from being that type of shading to that type of shading. So you can sort of say the shading has rotated round. So I think if that one's starting off horizontal, it's going to end up looking this kind of diagonal. So let's eliminate any that don't have the right shading. So that's C and D and A. Right, and then it looks to me as though sort of it's the difference between these two 3D bits of rod, and if you look, that arrow was top right, bottom left. So since this dowel bit is bottom left, I think it can't be the same again. I think it has to be changing to look like it's top right. So that's why I think E is my answer for this one. Page 71, the last page, guys. You've done really well. Hopefully this is useful and made sense. Oh, this is quite cool. So it looks as though the missing part from both of these shapes appears in the middle, but it seems to have rotated a bit. So there's that missing place. So you've got sort of a missing parallelogram from here and here, and it's been put in the middle and rotated. So here we've got like a little missing, not quite, almost like a sharp oval. And so we should have that in here, but each time it's been rotated, and it looks to me as it's been rotated sort of 45 degrees. So I think we want something like that. So first off, let's eliminate any that aren't going to be in the correct direction. So I think that's C and E. And then obviously let's think about the line shading. So it looks as though the line shading was just copied by the larger section of the right shape. So if you look here, you've got this vertical and this vertical, which was the larger section. This was white from the larger section. So we want it to be from this larger section here, which is this diagonal where it's going from top right to bottom left. So that's vertical, so that wouldn't count. This one here, we've got the right shading, and D we don't. So I think, yeah, B must be the answer for number 4. Number 5. Okay. We've always got like one sort of quite cool sort of 3D shape where these are put in together. That's kind of interesting. Sort of, it's that one has been rotated. Let's have a look. Might just make it a little bit more zoomed in, just because I think there's some detail we want to make sure we can really see. That's a bit better. Okay, well the shading we can do right off the bat. So that starts off like this and stays like this pretty much throughout for all of this row. This one starts off like this and stays. So I think we can use, that means we want this kind of diagonal shading. And if we also ask ourselves where the shading is, it seems as though, so I think we want this kind of shading. So that eliminates B, and eliminates D. That's going to the top right, that's going to the top right, that's going to the top right. Okay, so far so good. And then we've got top left is white, bottom right is shaded, bottom right is shaded. So does that mean actually, oh, I suppose we got rid of D already. Yep, so these all got the correct feature in the right place. And then it's this shape here is getting copied, so the shaded shape is getting put into the top right hand corner. So if this is the shaded shape here, it needs to be getting put in top right, but if this one was pointing to the right, this one's pointing to the left. So we need to take this shape, which is sort of pointing to the top left, and swap it into the top right. So it needs to have a parallelogram sort of pointing in that direction in the top right. I think that same one here, look, you can see that one's being that shaded shape is being copied, but look, the bit that's got the little notch, this little bit that's missing here, was on the right, now it's on the left. So I'm pretty confident about that, so that means we can eliminate E, because E is sort of pointing to the left, whereas we want R1 pointing to the right. And actually just looking between A and C, which one should be big and which one should be small, because it's this shading shape here, so it's this sort of scroll shape that ended in the bottom right. It's this shaded sort of flat hexagon that's in the bottom right, so it should be this large one in the bottom right. So I think we want the thin one in the top left and the large one in the bottom right, and that's not what's going on in A, that is what's going on in C. So I think that's basically how it works, that this final row is a combination of the shaded thing on the middle row going in the top left, the shaded ring from the first column, sorry, so I said row, the shaded thing from the first column going to the top left, the shaded thing from the second column going to the bottom right, and I think that's how that works. Oof, tough though, not an easy question that one actually, not easy at all. Well done if you got it. Number 6, we've got, okay, well we're pointing up, down, up. We're pointing right, left, down. So it doesn't seem to be any great pattern there. What about diagonally? Well, these are all diagonally white. These are all diagonally grey. So these should be diagonally the same. So it means now I know I want a black, black, white combination for number 6. So that means I can eliminate C and D because they don't have enough to be black, black, white, let alone anything else. Then if I look diagonally, that one's pointing down and left, up, right, down. So actually, is the diagonal the easiest way of thinking about this? Is it rotating round each time? So it's pointing vertically up, vertically right, vertically down. So that's rotating 90 degrees. That one's pointing down, pointing left. So that's also rotating 90 degrees. So I wonder if this one's also rotating 90 degrees. Let's check the other things just to see if we can get sense of direction. What about this bottom one? So pointing right, pointing left, pointing down. Okay. So do we always need one of each type? So right, left, down. Up, down. No, because it's up, down, up. So up, left, down. Down, right, left. So up, left, down, down. No, it's not going to quite work. Okay, what about the shape behind it? We've got up, right, down. Okay, so maybe this middle one's the easy one. So I'm looking here now at sort of these lollipop shapes. So that's rotating 90 degrees each time as we go past. That one's rotating 90 degrees each time, which means that one should be pointing this way, so pointing down, pointing right, pointing up. So that means we can eliminate E, so we have made progress. And so now we just have to try and work out between A and B, should these be pointing up or down? Well, up, down, up. Right, left, down. Right, left. We've not had an up or a down. So I'm actually not sure with that one what the pattern is. Let's give another think. Is the whole thing's not rotating, is it? Because that's going down, up, right. Let's rub these out and see if I can see more clearly. Okay. Okay, so we haven't really talked about it. So the line that has a square at the top never has a white shield on it. The line that has a triangle on the top always has a shield, and it's always pointing in the same direction. If it was pointing up, it would always be pointing to the right. That's true for all of them. And the line that has a lollipop on it always has a shield that, if you look, is pointing away from the circle. So there's the circle, it's pointing away. There's the circle, and it's pointing away. So rather than focusing on what direction they should be pointing, this one has a shield that's pointing away from the circle, and this one has a shield that's pointing towards the circle. So I think it's not B, not because it's not possible for the arrows to point up, but because the type of middle shield is actually associated, is paired up with the line. Goh, tough question. I think that is the answer. But that's a meanie. Really well done if you got that, guys. Mega impressed. We've had a few good ones today. On then to number 7. So, well, what's nice about this is shading the same, 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 shading the same. So I think we want to have our shading match up, which unfortunately doesn't help us out well. It was too easy, but still, it's good to rule that out. Then we always have black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. Yeah, that's all good. We know everything else is black and white as well. Number 7. So, as we go from left to right, what can we see? So, that little box, if you doubled it, would look a bit like that shape. And if we do the same thing here, that quarter of a circle would become this semicircle. So maybe our black shape here is going to grow to become sort of a big triangle, or half of a diamond, or something to that effect. And it looks as if the colour's staying the same. So I think I want a black triangle, so that means B I'm going to get rid of. Let's see how this goes. Oh, and then actually, look, the white one does the same look. So you've got here, yeah, if you had 2 of these shapes back to back, you'd get the white shape, and 2 of these shapes back to back. This one's perhaps easier to see. That's this shape here. So actually, that means, yeah, look, we want a larger white semicircle. And these have all got large white semicircles. Okay, so fine. Now, what about the position? Because there's definitely something about where things are sitting. So that goes top left, top right, bottom right. And that's... Okay, yeah, so if we just focus on the cross-hatching shape, that is rotating round. You look top left, top right, bottom right. That's bottom right, bottom left, top right. So that means this one should have the crosshatch one in the top left. So actually that's going to eliminate E for us. That's making progress. They all have exactly the same shape? No, not quite. That D looks slightly different to me. So we are expecting... Okay, the number of sides are changing. Look, a 6-sided shape and a 7-sided shape. So let's see if we can work out the sides. Ooh, okay, sides. So 3-sided shape, 4-sided shape, 5-sided shape. Let's just cross out my scribbles. 4-sided, 5-sided, 6-sided. So this is the 5-sided shape. So yeah, we want a 6-sided shape. So that means D's a goner. Okay, so now we just have to try and ask ourselves, think about, should it be the triangle on the top or on the bottom? And let's see. So we kind of want something there. So this one had the white on top and it stayed on top, and the black on bottom and it stayed on bottom. This one had the black on top and stayed on top, and the white on bottom stayed on bottom. So I think we're just going to have black on top, stay on top, white on bottom, staying on bottom. Because I think it's A, not C. Whew, tough one. We had to be very methodical, but slowly but surely start to see some patterns. That's very good. Okay, looking at this next one. So it seems to me, let's just check the circle. So bottom right, top left, bottom right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, top left, top right, bottom left. Obviously we don't know which way the squiggle is, so it could be squiggle. Well, actually no, we do. It can't be squiggling in this way because it wouldn't sort of complete that pattern. And actually, look, none of the examples have it squiggling that way, so then fair enough. So we know our archway is going off the bottom. So we know the circle's going to be down here somewhere. So it's more really about the colouring, isn't it? So let's have a look. So we've got white inside, black inside, hashed inside. Hashed inside, black inside, white inside. So I think we're missing a white inside circle because we've got the black, we've got the hashed. So that's the one that's in the circle, should be white. So that means it's between E and D, I think, because that's not got black inside, that's not, and that's not. Then looking at the outside shape, we always have a black outside, a hashed inside, and a white outside. So we've got here black outside, white outside, hashed outside. So we've got, or what we're missing, we've got the white outside, then we've got the hash, so we're looking for a black outside shape. So actually I think that must be D. So just by going through and working out, per row we need one of each type, I think number 8 was actually quite nice. I think number 8 actually was a bit easier than some of the other ones. Hopefully that makes sense. As always, guys, please give yourself a score. Because it's focused on 2 topics, you may want to sort of separate it. So if, for example, the fold and punch went really, really well, that might be worth giving yourself a green sticker for. And if then the matrices were harder, or vice versa. So even though, because we are testing sort of 2 disparate topics here, 2 different topics, when you are giving yourself stickers, don't be afraid to sort of separate it based on what you've done. And if one of those things needs more work than the other, make a note of it so you can come back and practice later. Especially the new topic, of course, which is the fold and punch. This is the first time we've done these, so it's important that those make sense and those click. Right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope that was useful. We'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye for now.